My name is Ryan. I'm 26, and I've been best friends with Jason since we were both in middle school. We met in 7th grade when he offered to share his Gatorade with me during gym class. That's Jason. Charming, friendly, the kind of guy who always made you feel like you belonged. He was a popular kid, the one who played football, flirted with every girl, and got invited to every party. I was a quiet one, observant, always on the sidelines, try to figure myself out while pretending I wasn't crushing on him the entire time. And yeah, I'm gay. I knew early on, maybe around age 13 or 14, but I kept that to myself. Jason was my best friend, and the last thing I wanted was to ruin what we had. I figured he was straight and always would be, so I buried my feelings and focused on just being the best friend he could count on. For the next decade, we did everything together: college road trips, late-night Taco Bell runs, weekend hikes. He was more than just my friend. He was like my second half. But there was always a part of me that stayed guarded, a part that wanted more and hated myself for it. A few months ago, Jason and his long-term girlfriend, Megan, broke up. They'd been on again, off again for years, but this time felt more final. He called me late one night, voice heavy with exhaustion. "She's done," he muttered. Said she needs space. Whatever that means. "You okay?" I asked, though I already knew he wasn't. He exhaled sharply. "Just need a fresh start. Got a new apartment. Movers bailed on me. Can you come help?" "Of course," I replied without thinking. He didn't even need to ask. That's how we were. The night I helped him move in is one I'll never forget. He had boxes stacked everywhere. No furniture yet. Just a mattress on the floor, a TV propped up on a milk crate, and empty pizza boxes from 2 nights ago. It was a mess, but he seemed more relaxed than I'd seen him in weeks. We spent hours lifting boxes, rearranging the couch that wouldn't fit through the door, and laughing at a YouTube video that made us cry laugh from exhaustion. Somewhere along the way, we lost our shirts because of the heat. His apartment didn't have working AC yet, and we were both drenched in sweat. Jason looked over at me at one point and said, "Damn, man, we should have started a moving company together." I laughed. "Yeah, sure. We get 0 clients and pull each other's backs out in a week." "You're probably right." There was a moment there, silent, lingering. His eyes locked with mine for just a second too long. I shook it off. Probably nothing. By midnight, we were completely wiped. He tossed me a towel and said, "Bathroom's all yours, bro." "Nah," I replied, stretching out on the couch. "You go first. You're the one smelling like gym socks and regret." He smirked and walked off, towel slung over his shoulder. I scrolled through my phone, sipping the last of my warm soda, and try not to think about how good he looked walking away. But 20 minutes passed, then 30. No sound of water anymore. No movement. I thought maybe he passed out in there. It wouldn't be the first time. Jason had a habit of zoning out in the shower after a long day, so I walked over to check on him. I knocked softly. "Hey, dude, you alive?" No answer. I pushed the door open, expecting to find him asleep on the floor or brushing his teeth half-conscious. But what I saw stopped me cold. Jason was sitting on the edge of the bathtub, towel around his neck, completely naked, eyes shut, hands slowly stroking himself and whispering my name. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I know I should have turned away, closed the door, pretended I didn't see it. But I didn't. I stood there like an idiot, heart pounding in my ears. And then he opened his eyes. Our eyes met. He didn't flinch. He didn't cover himself. He just stared at me. The air between us was thick with something I'd never felt before. Tension, electricity, maybe even fear. And then he whispered, "You gonna help me or just stand there?" I thought I'd misheard him. "What?" I asked, barely getting the word out. He looked down, then back up at me. "I'm serious. I've been thinking about this. About you. For a while now. You're straight." "I thought I was," he said, voice soft. "I don't know anymore, and I don't care." I stepped inside and shut the door behind me, my heart racing faster than it ever had. This was the guy I had dreamed about. The guy I convinced myself would never look at me that way. And now here he was, naked, vulnerable, and asking for something I never thought I'd be able to give him. Jason, are you sure about this? I asked. I don't want this to be some drunk mistake, or something you regret tomorrow. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against mine. It's not a mistake. It's something I should have admitted a long time ago. We didn't rush into it. There were no harsh touches or wild desperation. It was gentle, careful, full of emotion neither of us knew how to handle. He let me lead, and I did, with trembling hands and a heart full of caution. Every kiss was like a question, every breath like an answer. And when we were done, he lay beside me in silence, breathing slow, face relaxed. It wasn't about lust. It was about something deeper, something neither of us could name. We didn't speak much. He just wrapped his arm around me and pulled me close like he didn't want to let go. I fell asleep with my head on his chest, thinking maybe, just maybe, this was real. But when morning came, everything shifted. Jason was already up, pacing the living room. I could hear him on the phone. "Megan, I just need to talk to you. Please." I froze in the doorway. So that was it. She wasn't out of the picture, after all. And whatever happened last night, I had no idea what it meant to him. But I knew what it meant to me. He turned around and saw me standing there. His face dropped. "Ryan," I didn't say a word, just grabbed my shirt and walked past him, heart breaking in slow motion. He called out after me, "Wait, can we talk? Please." I paused at the door. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to turn around and ask him what the hell that night meant. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "I don't do second place, Jason." And I walked out. I didn't sleep the night after I left Jason's place. I thought I'd finally gotten what I always wanted. The one moment I used to dream about while lying in bed alone at night. The closeness, the touch, the truth. But now, it all felt like a lie wrapped in heat and confusion. Worse, it felt like I'd let myself believe in something that never really existed. I stayed in my apartment for the entire weekend. I didn't answer Jason's texts. I ignored his calls. I muted his Instagram stories because seeing him post like everything was fine made me sick. I kept hearing his voice from that night. "I've been thinking about this, about you, for a while now." And then, Meg, I wasn't angry that he was confused. I was angry that he pulled me into that confusion without thinking about how it might tear me up inside. For him, maybe it was just one night, and "I just need to talk to you. Please." That flip was hard to forgive. For me, it was 10 years of buried feelings finally coming to surface and crashing hard the next morning. It was Monday afternoon when I finally broke. I was making coffee, mindlessly scrolling through emails, trying to pretend I was okay, when my phone buzzed again. "Jason, I'm outside. Please talk to me." I looked out my window and, sure enough, there he was, sitting on the hood of his truck, hoodie pulled over his head, looking like hell. I wanted to ignore him. I really did. But we had history, and history doesn't disappear in a weekend. So I went down. The moment I opened the door, he stood up, hands in his pockets. "Hey," he said softly. I crossed my arms. "You shouldn't be here." I had to see you. I didn't say anything, just stared at him, waiting. He exhaled. "I'm sorry about everything. The way I handled it. The phone call. You walking out. All of it." I looked away, jaw tight. What was I supposed to do? Stick around while you call your ex, hours after you were in my arms? "Jason, what the hell did you expect?" "I don't know," he whispered. "I just panicked." "Why were you calling her?" He leaned against the doorframe, eyes down. "I don't know if I'm ready to let her go." Boom. There it was. The words I didn't want to hear, but already knew deep down. "And me?" I asked. What was I? Just a distraction? "No," he said quickly. "You were? I mean, you are more than that." "Then what am I?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I shook my head. "Exactly." He looked like he wanted to cry. And part of me wanted to reach out, hold him, make it better, but I couldn't. Not this time. "You said you've been thinking about me." I said. Was that true? Or was that just some late-night fantasy you needed to get out of your system? I meant it, he said. But I also meant it when I said I'm confused. I don't know who I am anymore. I laughed bitterly. Welcome to the club. He looked at me, really looked at me. You've known who you are for a long time, Ryan. I haven't. I've spent my whole life pretending I had it all figured out. Girlfriends, locker room talk, expectations. But with you, I felt something I've never felt before, and it scared the hell out of me. I blinked back emotion. Then why didn't you say that before you called her? Because part of me still wanted to believe I could go back to the life I understood. We stood there for a long time in silence. Just two people stuck between yesterday and whatever was supposed to come next. I don't hate you, Jason. I finally said, but I can't be your escape. You need to figure this out on your own. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that. He started walking away, but then he paused and looked back at me. I miss you, man. I swallowed hard. I miss who I thought you were. That week dragged on like a slow storm. I thought about Jason constantly. Every song, every smell, every joke reminded me of him. I missed our friendship. I missed what we could have been. But I also knew I needed to protect myself. I tried going on a few dates. Met a guy named Caleb, who worked in finance. Nice, funny, openly gay, confident. We got drinks. He complimented my smile. I tried to laugh, tried to let him in. But the truth was, I wasn't ready. Because Jason still had a hold on me. Then came Friday night. I was lying on my couch, half asleep, watching some dumb Netflix show when my phone buzzed. Jason again. I'm outside. Again. I swear it's not what you think. I groaned, but went to the window anyway. He wasn't alone this time. He was holding a small duffel bag and a cardboard box. His eyes were red. His hoodie soaked. I opened the door, and before I could say anything, he shoved the box into my hands. What is this? I asked. My stuff, he said quietly. I moved out. Megan and I, it's done. I blinked. Wait, you're what? We talked. I told her the truth. Well, not all of it, but enough. That I wasn't in love with her anymore. That I needed to figure things out. Jason, I whispered, shocked. He looked exhausted, like the weight of the world had finally caught up to him. I'm not here to fix everything overnight, he said. I'm asking if I can crash here for a few days while I figure things out. I didn't know where else to go. I should have said no, but I didn't. That night, we didn't touch. We didn't talk much. He slept on the couch. I tossed and turned in my bed, heart pounding with every creak of the floorboards. At 2 a.m., I got up for water. He was still awake, staring at the ceiling. Can't sleep? I asked. He looked over at me. Not really. I walked over and sat beside him on the couch. He looked at me, his voice low. You think I'm a mess, don't you? I shrugged. Maybe, but at least you're finally honest about it. He sighed. Do you hate me? No, I said softly. I just don't trust you yet. He nodded. Fair enough. We sat in silence for a while. Then he whispered, I miss being close to you. I didn't respond. He reached out, hesitated, then gently placed his hand over mine. I'm not asking for anything, he said. I just need you to know that last time meant something to me, even if I didn't handle it right. I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in either. That night, we slept on the couch together, fully clothed, barely touching, yet feeling like 1,000 things were left unsaid between us. Something had shifted again, but whether it was the beginning of something real or just the calm before another storm, I couldn't say. 3 days. That's how long Jason had been crashing at my place. 3 days of awkward silence, half smiles, and conversations that always stopped just short of what we really needed to say. He took the couch without complaint, helped with the dishes, bought groceries once. From the outside, we looked like roommates, friends just going through life together. But on the inside, I was a storm. Quiet, constant, heavy. Every time I passed him in the hallway, every time I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, it chipped away at the walls I'd built around my heart. And still we hadn't touched. Not since that night. I remember the second night he stayed over. I walked into the living room late, expecting to find him asleep, snoring on the couch like usual. Instead, I saw him sitting upright in the dark, a glass of water in one hand, staring at the blank TV screen. "You good?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just looked over and said, "Do you ever feel like you're in someone else's life? Like none of this was supposed to be yours?" I leaned against the doorway. "All the time." He looked down. "I think I lived my whole life for other people, for what my dad expected, for how my friends saw me, for Megan, even for you. That last part caught me off guard. For me?" He nodded. "Yeah, like, I always knew there was something different about how I felt around you, but I never let myself name it. I told myself it was just a deep friendship, that it wasn't what it really was." I took a slow breath. "And what do you think it really was?" He looked up at me, eyes tired, honest. "Love." I should have felt relieved. After all those years of wondering if he could ever feel the same, he finally said it. But instead of warmth, I felt fear. Because love from Jason didn't come easy, and when it did, it was complicated, conditional, tied up in shame and secrecy. I couldn't be the only one holding this thing together. "I need more than words." I told him. "I need action." "I know," he whispered. But when I reached for his hand, he pulled away. The next morning, it was like nothing had happened. He got up early, made coffee, and asked if I wanted eggs. Just a regular Tuesday. But something inside me had shifted. That's when I decided to set boundaries. That night, I sat him down and said, "We need to talk." He froze mid-bite of his sandwich. That's never a good start. "I'm serious," I said. "You can't stay here forever." His face fell. "You kicking me out?" "No, but I am asking you to be honest with me. About what this is. About what you want." He looked down. "I don't know what I want, Ryan. That's the truth." "Well, I do," I said. "I want something real. I want to love someone who's not ashamed of me." He went quiet. "I'm not your secret," I continued. "I'm not some phase or experiment you get to tuck away when things get complicated. I'm not trying to do that. But you are. You haven't told anyone, not even your closest friends. You're living here in my apartment, acting like nothing happened between us." He shook his head. "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." I snapped. "You either want this or you don't." He stood up. "I didn't ask for all this, Ryan." My chest tightened. "Neither did I." He turned away. "I'm trying, okay? I'm trying to understand this part of me. But it's scary. Everything I've known, everything I've been, it's all changing. And yeah, I've messed up. But don't make it seem like I'm the only one hurting here." I paused. He was right. I wasn't the only one hurting. But I was the only one being honest about it. So I said the hardest thing I'd ever said to him. "Maybe you should stay somewhere else for a while." He didn't speak. He just grabbed his hoodie and walked out the door. I stood there after he left, heart pounding in my ears, trying not to collapse under the weight of it all. Had I just pushed away the only man I'd ever truly loved? Or had I finally stood up for myself? 3 days passed. No word. On the 4th, I saw him at a local coffee shop, sitting outside with his friends, laughing, acting like life was perfectly normal. I stayed across the street, behind a bus stop, watching like some pathetic ex. One of his friends, a guy named Connor, leaned in and said something. Jason laughed and waved him off. But then Connor slapped his shoulder and made some joke that got the whole group laughing. That's when I realized they didn't know. None of them knew what had happened between us. Jason hadn't told a soul, and he wasn't planning to. That night, my phone lit up with a message from him. "Jason, can we talk? I messed up. Again. I know." I didn't answer. I let it sit for hours, unread. I knew if I opened it, I'd start caring again. And I couldn't afford to keep letting him in just for him to run away the second things got real. But then he sent a second message. "I went to therapy today." I blinked. That I didn't expect. Then a third message followed. "You're right. I've been hiding, lying. I hate it. I want to change. But I don't know how. please. I need you." I stared at those words like they were written in fire. My thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't respond. Instead, I picked up my keys and drove. When I got to his place, his old apartment, the one he shared with Megan, he was sitting outside on the front step, hoodie pulled over his head, shaking like he'd been crying. I parked and walked up slowly. He stood. We didn't speak. We just stood there under the porch light, both of us waiting for the other to say something brave. Then he said it. I told her everything. I froze. "What?" "Megan." I told her what happened. About you. About me. Everything. I couldn't believe it. She cried. He said, "She told me I'd been lying to myself since college. That she always knew deep down." "What did you say?" I said, "I think she's right." I swallowed hard. "So, what now?" He stepped closer. Now I stopped hiding. I stopped pretending. And I asked the one person I trust not to give up on me. He reached for my hand. "I want this. I want you. No more secrets. No more shame." I looked down at our hands, felt the weight of 10 years of silence finally lifting. Then I nodded. "Okay." That night, for the first time in our entire friendship, he kissed me in public. Just once. But it was real. No hiding. No fear. Just us. And for the first time, I believed him. Jason kissed me in public. It wasn't wild or dramatic. Just a quiet, slow kiss on a cold night outside his old apartment. No one else was around. At least not that we knew. But still it mattered, because this time he wasn't hiding. And for the first time since we were kids, he wasn't pretending to be someone he wasn't. I didn't say much after that. I couldn't. My heart was a tangled mess of relief, disbelief, and cautious hope. But he held my hand all the way to the car. And when we drove back to my place, he didn't sleep on the couch. The next morning was oddly peaceful. I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of him humming softly in the kitchen, barefoot and shirtless like it was just a normal day. I stood in the hallway for a second, watching him pour 2 mugs and plate some toast, like he'd been doing this every morning for years. When he saw me, he smiled. That kind of smile I'd only ever seen in my dreams. "Morning," he said. "Morning." I replied, voice dry from nerves and something else I couldn't name. He handed me a mug. "Still like it black with 2 sugars? You remember that?" He shrugged. "I remember everything about you." We ate in silence, the good kind. Comfortable. His knee brushed against mine beneath the table, but neither of us moved away. Every little touch was a question. Every glance was an answer. But the peace didn't last long, because reality always finds a way to crash through even the best mornings. That afternoon, he said he wanted to come out to a few close friends. Not just drop it like some Instagram announcement, but have real conversations. "I don't want to lie to them anymore," he said. "I want them to hear it from me. Not rumors. Not from Megan. Me." I was proud of him, but I was scared for him too. Jason wasn't just some guy figuring things out in private. He was known. The golden boy in our hometown. The one who always had it together. If anyone had the most to lose in their circle, it was him. But he was ready. Or so he thought. We started with Connor, Jason's gym buddy, old college roommate, one of his longest friendships. They met at the bar near campus, and I stayed back, giving him space. An hour passed. Then 2. When he finally came back to the apartment, he dropped onto the couch with a thud. "How'd it go?" I asked gently. He stared at the ceiling. He said it made sense. That he always wondered why I never fully committed to Megan. He wasn't shocked. I blinked. "Really?" Jason nodded. "Yeah." He said he's cool with it. That he still sees me the same. That gave him the courage to tell another friend. Then another. Some reactions were better than others. One guy gave him a high five and said, "Bro, love is love." Another said, "Damn, wish you'd told me sooner. I would have hooked you up with my cousin." Then came Brandon. Brandon wasn't just a friend. He was Jason's right-hand man for years. If you saw Jason at a party, Brandon wasn't far behind. They played football together, shared girls, shared secrets. But this wasn't one of those secrets Brandon was ready to hear. Jason told him over lunch. When he came back home afterward, I could tell something was off. His smile was fake. His shoulders slumped. He didn't take it well, Jason muttered. I sat beside him, careful. What did he say? He said he doesn't believe me, that I'm confused or just going through a breakup spiral. He said, you? Gay? Come on, man. Don't ruin your life over a phase. I clenched my fists. That's disgusting. Jason looked ashamed. He also said, being gay would mess up everything. Our friends, my reputation. That I'll regret it when I realize I threw my whole life away for a guy. And what did you say? I told him I wasn't asking for his approval. That night, Jason barely spoke. He laid in bed staring at the ceiling while I curled beside him, unsure what to say or do. I could feel the heaviness in him, the grief of letting go, not just of a friendship, but a version of himself he'd clung to for years. Do you think I'm making a mistake? He asked softly in the dark. No, I said, you're finally being honest. That's never a mistake. But what if no one ever sees me the same again? I turned toward him. Maybe that's a good thing. He looked at me, eyes glassy. I'm scared. So am I whispered. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. He buried his face in my chest and just breathed, slow and deep, as if trying to hold on to something that felt real. The next few days were a blur change. He deleted old photos from social media. He updated his bio to just say Jason. No more couples pics. No more pretending. But the backlash didn't take long. Anonymous DMs. Snide comments under old posts. Some mutuals unfollowed him. Others messaged him privately to say they never would have guessed, like it was some bizarre compliment. He tried to play it cool, shrugged it off, but I knew it was getting to him. One night, I found him sitting in the bathroom with the shower running, fully clothed, phone in hand, scrolling through hateful messages. I took the phone from him and turned off the water. You don't have to do this alone, I said. He looked up at me, cheeks wet, not from the shower. I'm not as strong as you think, he whispered. You don't have to be strong, I said. You just have to be honest. And that's what you're doing. He nodded, lips trembling. You still want this? Me? Even after all this crap? I sat on the floor, beside him, took his hand. I didn't fall for you because it was easy, Jason. I fell for you because it was real, messy, complicated, but real. We started going out together more. Slowly. A brunch spot here. A late-night walk downtown there. We weren't holding hands in public yet, but the space between us was shrinking. The tension wasn't what are we doing anymore. It was, when are we ready to show the world? Then came the photo. We were at a small local music night, an open mic thing with barely 20 people. Jason knew the guy performing. And we ended up sitting on a bench near the stage, laughing at some terrible acoustic version of a Drake song. Someone snapped a pic. Jason didn't think twice. He posted it the next day. No caption, just me and him leaning close, heads touching, both smiling like idiots. Within hours, it blew up among his old circle. Text after text rolled in, some supportive. Others, not so much. Brandon sent one last message. Guess you really went through with it. Don't expect me to pretend this is normal. We're done. Jason just stared at it, then blocked him, and turned to me. Let him go, I said. He nodded, but I could still see the pain behind his eyes. That night, we lay on the roof of my apartment building, watching the stars. You know what I realized? He said. What? All those people I was scared to lose? They never really saw me anyway. Not the real me. I smiled. Then maybe now's your chance to start fresh. He looked over at me. His voice cracked a little. With you? I nodded. With us. We kissed under the stars. And this time, I didn't care who saw. Because I wasn't just loving someone anymore. I was watching him finally love himself. It was supposed to be a new chapter. Jason was out. We were together. And for the first time, our relationship wasn't hiding in the shadows. It was real, messy, emotional, but ours. And we were building something that actually felt like a future. He started sleeping beside me every night, reaching for my hand in public, brushing his fingers against mine in grocery aisles. They were small things, things couples do without thinking, but they meant everything coming from him. Every step forward felt like healing. But healing never happens in a straight line. And just when we thought we were in the clear, she showed up. It started with a knock on the door. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when Jason opened it. From where I stood, I couldn't see who it was, but the moment I heard her voice, my stomach dropped. Megan, his ex-fiancée. Jason, can we talk? She asked, her tone soft but shaking. Jason turned halfway toward me. Ryan. It's okay, I said, even though it wasn't. He stepped outside and closed the door behind him. But I could hear them, every word, every tremble in her voice. I'm not here to fight, she said. Then why are you here? I needed to see you. In person. Jason was quiet. I saw the photo, she continued. The one you posted with Ryan. I figured you would. Look, I've had time to think, to process. I was angry at first, hurt, but now, I just want you to know that I'm not here to punish you for figuring yourself out. Jason sounded relieved. Thank you, but there's something else. I heard his breath hitch. Then Megan said the 5 words that changed everything. I think I might be pregnant. I dropped the spoon I was holding. It clanged against the sink. Pregnant? Was she serious? Jason opened the door a few minutes later, face pale like the blood had drained right out of him. I didn't even ask. I need to sit down, he said. He collapsed on the couch, hands running through his hair, eyes wide and vacant. She thinks she's pregnant, he finally said. I heard. I replied, my voice barely audible. He looked up at me. She's taking a test later today. But she's late, and she's never late. I leaned against the counter, trying to hold it together. When was the last time? Right before I left, he said. It was goodbye sex. I didn't even want to, but I don't know. I felt like I owed her that moment. I turned away, not because I was angry, because I was breaking. The hours dragged. He barely said anything, just paced back and forth, jumping every time his phone buzzed. I wanted to comfort him, but how could I, when part of me hated him in that moment, not for what he'd done, but for how much it still tied him to her. At 4:17 p.m., she texted. Jason opened it, stared for a full minute, then turned the screen toward me. Megan, it's positive. I'm pregnant. Everything after that became a blur. I remember sitting on the couch, his voice echoing somewhere far away as he kept saying, this changes everything, over and over. He started talking about responsibilities, about doing what's right, about how he needed to step up, and I just sat there, frozen, watching our future collapse. That night, I went to bed alone. Jason didn't come in. I heard him outside on the balcony, talking to her on the phone, his voice low, serious. I couldn't hear the words, but I could feel the distance growing. The next morning, he came into the room while I was brushing my teeth. We need to talk, he said. I nodded. Yeah, we do. He sat on the edge of the bed. I leaned against the doorframe, towel over my shoulder, hard in my throat. She wants to keep it, he said. And you? I don't know, he whispered. I'm scared. I didn't expect this. I didn't want this. But it's happening. So what are you going to do? He looked up at me. I want to be in the kid's life. I don't want to be the guy who bails. I nodded slowly. That's fair. But where does that leave us? Jason stood, walked toward me. I still love you, Ryan. But is that enough? I asked, fighting the lump in my throat. Can you be a dad and still build something with me? Or will I always be the secret second life? He didn't answer. That said everything. For 2 days, we barely spoke. He stayed out late. I didn't ask where. When he came home, he looked more and more like the version of him I used to know, the one who lived behind masks, behind expectations. Then came the real gut punch. He told me he was thinking about moving in with Megan, just to help her through the pregnancy, he said. It wouldn't be like that. Not romantically. I want to be there. And what about us? I asked, voice cracking. He hesitated. I don't know how to be both. a dad in this. This, I repeated, heartbreaking. This is a relationship, Jason. This is love. He nodded, teary-eyed. I know, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. But I can't abandon her either. So you'll abandon me instead? He didn't say no, and that was enough of an answer. I packed a bag that night. Not for him. For me. Because if he couldn't fight for this, I wasn't going to stay and keep begging him to. He found me at the door. Where are you going? Somewhere I can breathe. Ryan, please. I gave you everything, I said. And I get that this is complicated. But love doesn't get put on hold. Not like this. He reached for my arm. I still love you. I pulled away. Then prove it. I left, not to punish him, but to protect myself. And as I walked down the stairs with my bag over my shoulder, I whispered something I'd never said out loud before. Please don't let this be the end. I thought walking away from Jason would give me peace. It didn't. The silence after leaving his apartment was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Every step down those stairs felt like ripping out a piece of my heart. And by the time I reached the sidewalk, the ache in my chest was unbearable. But I didn't turn back. I couldn't. If I stayed, I would have lost myself. I crashed at my friend Eli's place the night. I hadn't even told him I was coming. Just showed up with a bag, eyes red and tired. He opened the door and saw the look on my face. No questions tonight, he said, stepping aside. You can talk when you're ready. I nodded and walked in. I didn't say a word for hours. The next morning, I checked my phone. 6 missed calls, 3 voicemails, all from Jason. But I couldn't bring myself to listen to them. I needed space, time, air, the kind of space you can't get when you're wrapped up in someone else's chaos. Eli gave me the guest room for a few days. I laid low, avoided social media, ignored messages, didn't even leave the house unless I had to. But Jason, he kept trying, text after text. Please talk to me. I miss you. I need to explain. Explain what? That he chose to be a dad? That he moved in with his ex? I wanted to scream at him. You don't get to need me after leaving me. A week passed, then another. Eventually, the messages stopped, and that silence, it was worse than the noise. I started going out again. Eli dragged me to a game mixer downtown just to get me out of my own head. I wasn't ready to flirt or hook up, or even smile too much. But I showed up, mostly for the free drinks. I stood in the corner, swirling a rum and coke, pretending to care about the music, when someone tapped my shoulder. You okay? Eli asked, voice low. I shrugged. Define okay. He chuckled. You're here. That's something. I looked around the room. So many faces, so many options, and yet none of them could fill the Jason-shaped hole in my chest. Then, halfway through the night, Eli leaned over and said, Hey, don't panic. But he's here. I froze. Who? He didn't answer, just nodded toward the entrance. And there he was, Jason. He looked rough. Not physically. He was still the same guy. Still wore that gray hoodie that made his eyes pop. Still walked like he owned the room. But his face, it was different. Hollow. Sad. Like something had drained the light out of him. I turned away, pretending not to see him. Eli whispered, wanting to kick him out. No, I said quietly. Let him come. Jason walked through the crowd like he didn't care who saw him, like the world had faded away and there was only me. When he reached me, he stopped, just stood there. I didn't say anything. He didn't either. Until finally, I messed up. I sipped my drink. Yeah, you did. I thought I was doing the right thing. Being a dad. Supporting Megan. And is that what you're doing? I asked coldly. Supporting her? He swallowed. I moved in for 3 days. That's it. Then I left. That caught me off guard. What? I couldn't do it, he said. Not like that. Not while lying to her. Lying to myself. Lying to you. Why'd you go in the first place? Because I was scared. I thought being a father meant going back to that life. The one everyone expected me to have. And now, he looked at me, eyes glassy. Now I realize the only life I want is the one where I wake up next to you. We stepped outside. It was quieter there. The music still thumped from inside, but the chill in the air helped me breathe. Jason stood beside me, not touching me, just waiting. She's really pregnant? I asked. Yeah, he said. 10 weeks now. And I'm going to be a father, but I'm not going back to her. I told her that. I told her I'd be involved fully, financially, emotionally, whatever she needed. But I also told her about you. I turned to him. You did. She didn't take it well, he admitted, but she respected the truth. Eventually, I crossed my arms. So now what? You want me to just pick up where we left off? Like nothing happened? No, he said. I want to earn it back. Every piece. Every kiss. Every second. If you'll let me? I didn't answer right away, because part of me still hurt. Still wondered if I'd ever truly be enough for him. But another part, the louder part, remembered all the nights he held me like I was the only thing keeping him together. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. The way he loved me in private, even when the world wasn't ready to see it. You left me when it got hard, I said. I know. You ran back to a past that nearly destroyed you. I know. And now you're asking me to trust you again? He nodded. Yes. I stared at him. Really looked at him. He was broken, but he was honest, maybe for the first time ever. I'm not going to be your secret again, I said. You won't be. I'm not raising your kid. I'd never ask you to. I'm not putting my heart back on the line unless you're ready to carry it with both hands. I am, he said. I swear. And for some reason, I believed him. We left together that night. No big drama. No announcement. Just two people, finally choosing each other in a world that had always tried to keep them apart. At my apartment, he didn't rush to kiss me. He waited until I closed the door, turned to face him and whispered, okay. Then he held me, longer than ever, like he never wanted to let go again. We didn't sleep together that night. Not in that way. He just laid beside me, fingers laced with mine, his breathing sinking to mine like we were rediscovering each other all over again. In the morning, I woke up first. He was still asleep, arm wrapped around my waist, mouth slightly open. Peaceful. I watched him for a while, and for the first time in weeks, I felt okay again. Not because everything was perfect, but because we were finally facing the chaos together. Later that day, he called Megan on speaker. I'm with Ryan, he said. I'm not hiding it. There was a pause. Then Megan's voice. Then don't disappear. Don't abandon this baby like your dad did you. I won't, Jason said. I promise. And I knew he meant it. We had a long road ahead of us. Doctor's appointments. Co-parenting conversations. Family dinners where people would stare and judge. But at least we were walking that road together. And that was more than I ever expected. Jason always said his family was traditional. What he meant was they were the kind of people who believed love came in only one shape. Man, woman, marriage, babies. In that order. We had always kept our distance from that part of his life. I hadn't met them, hadn't even seen photos. When I asked why, he'd just shrug and say they wouldn't understand. And to be honest, I was okay with that. Until the pregnancy forced everything into the open. It started with a phone call from Jason's mom. I wasn't in the room when it happened, but I heard the tone shift in his voice. Calm at first, then tight, then outright defensive. I peeked around the corner and saw his face pale, hand gripping the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. He hung up without saying goodbye, then sat down on the edge of the bed, completely still. They know, he said, eyes staring at the floor. I didn't ask how. He just said, Megan told them everything. They didn't take it well. Jason's dad called it a phase. His mom cried and said she failed as a mother. His older brother, married with 3 kids, called him disgusting. They said he was abandoning his responsibilities, throwing away his life. They told him Megan was a victim, that I was a bad influence, that he was confused. Jason didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just listened quietly, and then he turned his phone off. Later that night, he sat on the balcony with a beer in hand, staring into the city lights like they had answers. "They really think I'm broken," he said. "You're not," I replied. "They think I should go back to Megan. Pretend this never happened." "Can you?" He turned to look at me. "No, because I'm finally being real for once in my life, and I'm not going back." The next morning, his mom showed up at our door, uninvited. Jason froze when he saw her through the peephole. "She's alone," he said quietly. I watched him open the door, slowly, cautiously. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, smiling nervously. "Hi, Mom." She looked past him and saw me. Her smile dropped. "Can we talk?" she asked. Jason hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, come in." She sat on the edge of the couch like it might bite her. Her eyes scanned the room, lingering on the photo of us on the coffee table, the one from that weekend at the lake, where Jason was holding me from behind, both of us laughing. She looked away quickly. "I just want to understand," she said. Jason sat beside me. "There's nothing to understand. I'm in love with Ryan. But you were going to marry Megan." "I was also miserable," he replied. He gestured between us. "This is the first time I've actually felt like myself." She went quiet for a moment. Then, "But what about the baby?" "I'll be in the baby's life," Jason said. "I'll be there, fully. But I'm not going back to Megan. That door is closed." She looked at me. Her eyes softened slightly. "So, this isn't just some experiment?" Jason cut in. "No, he's not some experiment. He's my partner." That hit her hard. She sat in silence for a while, then stood up. "I don't know if I can accept this," she whispered. Jason stood, too. "Then that's your choice. But I'm done hiding. From you. From anyone." She blinked fast, like she was holding back tears. "I just didn't picture this for you." "I didn't either," he admitted. "But it's the best thing that's ever happened to me." She nodded slowly, then walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned to me. "Take care of him," she said. "He's always been too good at pretending." And then she left. That night, Jason broke down. Years of trying to be the perfect son, the straight man, the golden boy, it all caught up with him. He cried harder than I'd ever seen. And I just held him, not saying a word. Because sometimes love isn't about fixing someone. It's about standing still while they fall apart, and being there when they finally rise again. A few days later, something unexpected happened. His younger sister, Anna, called. "I heard everything," she said over speakerphone. "And I just want to say, screw them." Jason laughed through his tears. "Thanks, Anna. I love you, okay?" she added. "And I can't wait to meet Ryan. Tell him he better not suck." I leaned over. "I can hear you, you know." She snorted. "Good. Then you better treat my brother like gold, or I'll hunt you down." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. And sometimes, all you need is one person in your corner to remind you you're not alone. We started building a new kind of life. Jason got a job transfer approved, something with more flexibility, so he could co-parent without giving up everything. We went to a parenting workshop together. Not because I was going to be a dad, but because I wanted to understand what he was stepping into. We even had dinner with Megan. Yes, dinner. It was awkward at first. She avoided eye contact for the first 10 minutes. But then she finally sighed and said, "I don't hate you, Ryan." I blinked. "Okay. I mean, I did. For a while. But now, I don't know. You didn't take him from me. He was already gone." Jason reached for her hand. "I'm going to be here. For the baby. Always." She nodded. "I know. And Ryan, if you're going to be part of his life too, then I guess we all have to learn how to breathe the same air." "I'm willing," I said. "If you are." She smirked. "One condition." "What's that?" "No PDA at the baby shower." We all laughed. It was weird, complicated, messy, but it was ours. And for the first time since this wild story began, I didn't feel like I was stealing something. I felt like I was building something. with people who were finally starting to show up. A few weeks later, Jason's mom called again. "Can I come over?" she asked. Jason looked at me. I nodded. When she arrived, she looked different, tired but softer. She held out a small gift bag. Inside was a tiny baby onesie that read, "Loved by Mom, Dad, and someone named Ryan." I couldn't help but smile. She sat down and looked me in the eyes. "I'm trying," she said. "It's not easy, but I see how happy he is. And that means something." I nodded. "Thank you." She reached across the table and touched my hand. It was small, but it meant everything. Not everyone accepted us. Jason's dad still hadn't called. His brother sent a single text. "Good luck with your choice." But the ones who mattered, they showed up, and that's what we chose to hold on to. One night, as we laid in bed, Jason whispered, "You still think I'll leave again?" I turned to him. "No, I think you finally found your way home." He kissed my forehead and pulled me closer. "You are home," he said. "You always were." It was 3:12 a.m. when the call came. Jason's phone lit up on the nightstand, and I watched him stir, groan, and blindly reach for it. "Hello," he mumbled half asleep. His eyes snapped open almost immediately. "What? Now? Is she okay?" I sat up. He hung up and turned to me, breath caught in his throat. "It's happening," he said. "She's in labor." We were out the door in 10 minutes. Jason drove like a madman, one hand clenched on the wheel, the other gripping mine tightly as if he needed to feel something real in the chaos. "It's early," he kept repeating. "She's not due for 3 more weeks." I stayed calm for him. "She's strong," I said, "and so is the baby." But truthfully, I was terrified, not for the baby, not even for Megan, but for what this moment might do to us. The hospital waiting room was cold, too bright, and filled with the kind of nervous silence that eats at you. Jason went back and forth between pacing and texting Megan's mom, who was already in the delivery room with her. I sat quietly in the corner, letting him have his space. An hour passed, then another, then a nurse finally stepped out. "You can come back now," she said. Jason stood, frozen. He looked at me, and for a moment, I wondered if he'd go alone. But then he reached back and grabbed my hand. "Come with me," he whispered. The delivery room was chaos. Megan was sweaty, screaming, and clutching the side rails like they were the only things keeping her grounded. "Where the hell have you been?" she yelled at Jason. "I got here as fast as I could," he said, rushing to her side. Her mom shot me a wary glance, but didn't say anything. I stayed near the doorway, not wanting to overstep. Jason held Megan's hand, whispering encouragement, telling her she was doing amazing. And she was. 20 minutes later, it happened. A tiny cry broke through the noise. And just like that, life changed. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. They placed the baby on Megan's chest, and she sobbed uncontrollably. Jason stood beside her, staring at the tiny human like he couldn't believe any of it was real. Then he looked back at me. Our eyes met, and he mouthed the words, "Come here." I stepped forward, slowly, unsure if it was my place. But when I got close, Jason pulled me beside him and placed my hand gently on the baby's back. "Ryan," he whispered, "meet our son." My heart cracked open, not because the baby was mine, but because Jason wanted me there. In that moment, at the very beginning, we didn't stay long in the room. Just enough time to let Megan rest and for Jason to take in the weight of it all. When we stepped back out into the hallway, he leaned against the wall and slid down to the floor. "Holy SH*T, he muttered. I sat beside him. "You okay?" "I don't know," he said honestly. "I feel everything, all at once." I nodded. "That means you're human." He smiled faintly. "He's perfect." "He is." Jason looked at me. "So now what?" That question hung heavy in the air. Because the birth of his son didn't just change Jason, it changed us. We were no longer just two guys figuring each other out. There was a child now, a whole new life in the picture. And the truth was, I didn't know what that meant for me. The next few days were a blur. Jason spent nearly every hour at the hospital, holding the baby, feeding him, taking endless photos. I joined him when I could. Sometimes Megan was there, sometimes not. Sometimes it felt like a little family. Other times, I felt like a third wheel in someone else's dream. One night, back at our place, Jason walked in looking exhausted. He dropped his bag, kicked off his shoes, and collapsed onto the couch. I sat beside him, passing him a cup of water. "She's naming him Elijah," he said. I smiled. "That's beautiful." She asked if I'd be okay with it. I said yeah. Honestly, I didn't care what name she picked. I still can't believe he's mine. There was a long pause. Then he looked at me. "Does this change how you feel about me?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he swallowed. "You didn't sign up for this. A boyfriend with a baby and a complicated past." I set the cup down. "Jason, I signed up for you. All of you. Mess and all." His eyes welled up. "You mean that?" I leaned in. Every word. He pulled me close, kissing me softly. And for the first time since the baby arrived, we made love again. It wasn't wild or rushed. It was slow, intentional, full of things we hadn't yet said, but felt deeply. The next morning, I woke up to Jason standing at the window, looking out. He turned when he heard me stir. "I've been thinking," he said. "Dangerous." I teased. He smiled. "I want you to be part of this. Like, really part of this." I sat up. "What does that mean?" "I mean, if we're going to raise this kid, even from two homes, I want you in it. I want Elijah to know you, to love you. I want him to see what real love looks like." My chest tightened. "You're sure?" He walked over and sat beside me. "Ryan, I've never been more sure about anything in my life." Later that week, Megan invited us over. We found her sitting on the couch with Elijah asleep on her chest, the whole apartment smelling like baby wipes and dry shampoo. She looked up and smiled. "Tired?" Jason asked. "Exhausted," she groaned, "but happy." We sat with her for a while, and to my surprise, she started asking me about my childhood, my job, my family. It was the first time we'd had a real conversation. No tension, no subtext, just two people trying to figure out how to share something. Someone they both cared about. Before we left, she handed me the baby. "He likes you," she said. I looked down at Elijah. Tiny, warm, breathing softly against my chest. And I realized then love didn't have to be neat. It just had to be real. As we stepped into the elevator, Jason looked over at me and whispered, "I think we're going to be okay." I smiled. "I think so too." And in that moment, with my heart fuller than ever, I actually believed it. For a while, everything seemed calm. Jason had settled into a routine, splitting his time between work, our apartment, and Megan's place to care for Elijah. I was becoming more involved too. Bottle feeds, diaper runs, even lullabies that made Jason crack up because I couldn't sing in tune if my life depended on it. We weren't perfect, but we were a team until Megan changed the rules. It started small, little comments that hinted at something deeper. One afternoon, when Jason was at work and I dropped off some baby clothes at her place, Megan met me at the door with her arms crossed. "You're really leaning into the stepdad thing, huh?" I laughed nervously, just trying to help. She didn't smile, just took the bag from my hand and said, "You know, it's confusing for Elijah. So many people coming in and out." I wanted to ask what she meant, but I held back. Then she added, "Especially when one of them isn't even related." That one hit. When I told Jason later that night, he sighed. "She's probably just tired," he said. "She doesn't mean it like that." But I knew she did. I could see it in her eyes. The way she'd started calling Jason more often. The way she forgot to text me about changes in Elijah's schedule. The way she stopped inviting me over altogether. And then came the bombshell. It was a Saturday. Jason and I were having a quiet morning, coffee, pancakes, and cartoons playing in the background, even though neither of us was really watching. His phone buzzed. He picked it up, read the message, and immediately stood. "Something wrong?" I asked. He turned the screen to show me. "Megan, we need to talk." "Alone?" "Come now." Jason looked torn. I nodded. "Go." He was gone for almost 3 hours. When he came back, he looked like he'd been sucker punched. "Jason?" I stood up. "What happened?" He sank into the couch and put his head in his hands. "She gave me an ultimatum," he said. "Said if I don't cut things off with you, she's going for full custody." My stomach dropped. "She what?" "She said Elijah doesn't need to grow up around confusion, that he should be raised in a normal home." Her words, not mine. I couldn't breathe. He looked at me, eyes full of pain. "She's scared and angry, and she thinks pushing you out is how she keeps control." We sat in silence for a long time. I tried to stay calm, but inside, I was unraveling. "She can't do that," I finally said. "She can't take him away just because of us." Jason nodded. "I know, but court's ugly, and I don't want my son caught in the middle." Then he looked up and said the one thing I wasn't prepared for. "I think maybe I should take a step back from us, just for now, until things settle." It felt like my lungs stopped working. "You're breaking up with me?" I whispered. "No," he said quickly. "No, I love you. But if this goes to court, they'll dig into everything. Our relationship, your involvement. And Megan has money. Her parents are ready to fight. I can't lose Elijah." I stood there, shaking. "Do you hear yourself, Jason? You're choosing her. Again." "No," he said, standing too. "I'm choosing him." "And what about me?" "I love you," he said, "but he's my son." That night, I packed a bag and left. I didn't yell, didn't slam the door. I just walked out, because if he wasn't going to fight for us, then I wasn't going to beg to stay. I moved in with a friend across town. Every hour felt like a bruise, fresh and aching. And yet, part of me understood. Jason was doing what he thought was right, but it didn't make it hurt any less. 2 weeks passed. No texts, no calls. I tried to move on. I went to work, smiled when I needed to, even went on a date, just to prove to myself I wasn't waiting. But I was. Every night, I checked my phone. And every night, nothing. Until one day, I got a message from an unknown number. "Anna, he's falling apart. Please call him. Jason's sister." I stared at the message for a long time. And then I called. He answered on the first ring. "Ryan." His voice cracked just saying my name. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "I should have never let you go." I stayed quiet. "I've been miserable," he continued. "Megan's threatening lawyers, but I don't care anymore. I realize if I give her what she wants now, she'll keep taking and taking until there's nothing left of me." "What changed?" I finally asked. "Elijah smiled for the first time yesterday," he said. "And I realized I wanted to smile because he's surrounded by love, not lies. And you're part of that love." Tears slipped down my cheeks. "I missed you," I said. "I miss us," he replied. "Please come home." When I walked back into our apartment, everything felt exactly the same, except for the fact that it now held the weight of everything we'd almost lost. Jason pulled me into the longest, tightest hug of my life. "I don't care what Megan says," he whispered. "You're not going anywhere. We fight together." Later that week, we sat down with a lawyer. We wanted to know our rights, how to protect Jason's custody, while also securing my place in Elijah's life. It wasn't easy. The law wasn't exactly built for relationships like ours, but we were willing to do whatever it took. Parenting classes, documentation, even therapy sessions to show that Elijah would grow up in a stable, loving environment. Megan, for her part, didn't take it well. She screamed, cried, called me names I won't repeat. But we didn't back down. We didn't threaten. We didn't retaliate. We simply showed up day after day with love and consistency. Eventually, her anger started to crack because the truth was she saw how much Jason loved his son. And slowly, she started to accept that I wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't a fairy tale. We still fought, still had awkward moments exchanging the baby, still dealt with whispers from people who didn't understand. But we were building something solid, something real. One evening, while Jason was burping Elijah on the couch, he looked over and said, "You know, I thought being a dad would make me feel trapped. And he smiled. It's the most free I've ever felt. I leaned against his shoulder, watching our son drift off to sleep. That's because you're finally living in your truth. We had a long road ahead. Court dates, co-parenting struggles, late nights and early mornings. But we weren't scared anymore, because now we were fighting the same fight. Together. It was late afternoon. Jason came home from a parenting workshop, dropped his bag on the counter, and handed me a thick stack of papers. What's this? I asked, flipping through them. A custody update. Our lawyer wants us to document everything for the next phase: visitation, finances, stability. I nodded and kept flipping until one document slid loose. A lab form with DNA test printed at the top. I froze. Jason noticed and immediately stepped closer. Oh, that. Jason, I said, voice low, why do you have a DNA test? He rubbed the back of his neck. Because Megan said something last week that messed with my head. He sat down at the table, elbows resting on his knees. She was mad I wouldn't cut you off. So she said, and I quote, "You sure that baby's even yours?" I sat slowly, heart hammering, and instead of ignoring her, I said carefully, "You got a DNA test?" Jason looked ashamed. I had to know, Ryan, I love Elijah. God, I love that kid. But if she was lying about that too. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. I understood the fear. But I also felt something crack inside me. You should have told me. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, or make it worse. I swallowed hard. Did you open it? He nodded, then handed me the result. Probability of paternity, 99.997%. My chest loosened just a little. So he's yours. Jason let out a breath he'd clearly been holding all week. Yeah, he's mine. Then he reached across the table and took my hand. And I wanted to be ours, which is why I talked to the lawyer today. I looked up. Jason's voice was calm, but serious. I want to give you partial guardianship, not just for emergencies. Real legal standing. I want this documented, that you're his family too. My breath caught. You do that. He nodded. I wanted to grow up knowing that love doesn't always look traditional, but it can be just as permanent. We scheduled the appointment for the following week. Our lawyer warned us it would be hard, that Megan might push back. And she did. Harder than we expected. We met at a neutral office. Jason, me, Megan, and both lawyers. As soon as the topic of my guardianship came up, Megan exploded. "He's not blood," she shouted. "You're trying to replace me." "No one's replacing anyone," Jason said. "You're his mother. But Ryan's been in his life since day one. He deserved protection too." Megan scoffed. "Oh, so this is what you call protection? Giving my baby to your little boyfriend." The room went silent. Jason's jaw clenched. "Megan," he said quietly, "I'm trying to build a stable life for Elijah. That includes having people around who actually show up. And Ryan, he shows up." Her face turned red. "You think you know everything," she snapped. "You think just because you've got some shiny new life, the past doesn't matter?" "What does that mean?" I asked cautiously. Megan glared at me. "You want the truth?" she said. Jason stood. "Megan, don't." "No," she said, standing too. "He wants to play daddy? Fine. Let him hear it." She turned to me. "Elijah might be Jason's kid by DNA, but he's mine in every other way. I carried him. I birthed him. I was alone during half that pregnancy because you showed up and made Jason forget who he was." "That's not fair," I said. "Isn't it?" she snapped. "Jason used to talk about raising this kid together. Just the two of us. We were going to try again until he met you." Jason looked stunned. "I never said that." "You didn't have to," she said bitterly. "We were finally getting along again. Then suddenly you're texting Ryan at 3 a.m., disappearing for hours, laughing like you used to with me. You traded 10 years of history for a few months of hormones." Jason stood silent, processing. And then Megan said the one thing that changed everything again. "I'm not mad you're gay," she said, voice cracking. "I'm mad you left our son for someone else." And I'm scared. Scared he'll grow up thinking love always ends in abandonment. That shut everyone up. Even me. After the meeting, Jason and I sat in his car for almost an hour without speaking. Finally, he turned to me. "She's right about one thing," he said. My stomach sank. "Which part?" "I did abandon her. Not just as a partner, but as a friend. I ghosted her emotionally. And I can't undo that." "You also didn't owe her your heart forever," I said gently. "You grew. You changed. That's not a betrayal. It's life." Jason nodded slowly, then looked at me. "I still want this guardianship to happen, but I want to be fair. I want Elijah to have both his parents and someone who loves him like a third." We didn't push Megan again that week. Instead, Jason took a softer approach. He invited her over. He talked to her, without lawyers in the room. He asked questions, listened, validated her fears. And after nearly 2 weeks of real, uncomfortable conversations, she agreed, not a full guardianship, but to a co-parenting contract that listed me as Elijah's primary alternate guardian. If anything happened to Jason, I wouldn't just be the boyfriend. I'd have a legal right to care for the boy I already loved. We signed the documents together. Megan cried. Jason cried. Even I teared up because I knew how rare this moment was. 3 broken adults trying to do something right for a child none of us planned for, but all of us adored. That night, Jason and I sat on the floor, Elijah sleeping between us in the baby seat. "You think he'll ever understand all of this?" Jason asked. "Someday," I said. "And when he does, he'll know he was never unwanted." Jason looked at me. "I want to raise him with love, with honesty, no secrets." I nodded. "Then we start now." And that's what we did. No secrets, no lies, just 3 adults trying to raise a child with more love than drama. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time, it felt possible. A year. That's how long it had been since the day I caught Jason in the living room doing something I never expected, something that changed everything between us forever. Now here we were, 1 full year later, standing in a park under a string of handmade decorations, watching Jason lift Elijah high into the air as he squealed with laughter. It was his first birthday. And somehow, through all the chaos, heartbreak, custody fights, and second-guessing, we made it. The party was small. Just family, a few close friends, and more cupcakes than anyone could eat. Megan was there, too. She brought her mom, who still gave me awkward side eyes every 10 minutes. But at least there were no explosions. Elijah was the star of the show, of course, drooling, giggling, smashing cake into his face while everyone took pictures. But all I could think about was how far we'd come. A year ago, Jason and I weren't even us. We were confusion and secrets and tension. Now, we were building a life, a real one. As the sun started to dip, Jason came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. "Still with me?" he asked softly. "Always," I said, leaning back into him. He kissed my temple and pointed toward the picnic blanket. "Elijah's almost asleep." I looked over and smiled. Megan was rocking him gently, singing something under her breath while her mom packed up leftover food. Jason turned to me, serious now. "You ready for tonight?" I nodded. We'd planned this moment for weeks. After everything, after all the courts, the tension, the late-night talks, it felt like time. Time to tell Elijah the truth. Not all of it, of course. He was only one. But the truth we had in mind wasn't for him yet. It was for everyone else. After we got home, and Elijah was safely asleep in his crib, Jason lit 2 candles on the coffee table and took a deep breath. "Okay," he said, "let's do this." I opened the laptop and hit record. This wasn't just any video. It was our story. We wanted to share it, not with the world, but with Elijah for when he was older, to show him how love sometimes finds you in the most unexpected, complicated, and beautiful ways. Jason started. "Hey, buddy," he said into the camera. "If you're watching this, you're probably old enough to ask questions about your parents, about us, about how everything came to be." He paused, looked at me. I continued. You were born into a situation that wasn't perfect. But the one thing you were never short on was love. Jason nodded. I was scared when I found out about you. But I knew from the moment I held you that you were mine, that I would do anything for you. And then there was me, I said with a soft smile. The one who wasn't supposed to be part of this story. Your dad's best friend. The guy who didn't even know he wanted a family until he met you. Jason added. And somehow, you gave us both something we didn't even know we were missing. The video was raw, honest. We talked about Megan with respect, about how she carried Elijah, about the hard choices she had to make, about how none of us were perfect, but we were all trying. We talked about the mistakes, mine, Jason's, all of them, about the fear of losing each other, the moment we nearly gave up, and the decision to fight, for love, for truth, and for a boy who deserved to grow up surrounded by it. We ended it simply. Jason looked into the lens and said, Elijah, if you ever wonder how you came to be in this family, know this, you are the best accident that ever happened to any of us. And if there's one thing I hope you carry with you, it's this: love can look different, but that doesn't make it any less real. I added, and we will always, always choose you. We stopped the recording and sat there in silence, both of us wiping tears away. A few weeks later, Jason did something that stunned even me. He proposed, not in a big, dramatic way. There were no candles or balloons or violins, just the two of us, folding laundry in the living room, Elijah babbling in his bouncer. Jason held up a tiny sock and said, Hey, Ryan. I turned, and he held out a ring. Not flashy, just simple, silver, engraved with one word, always. I blinked at him, completely frozen. I don't want to wait anymore, he said. I want you, and I want us to be a family. Legally, emotionally, completely. I dropped the towel in my hands. You're serious? As a heart attack. I smiled, then burst into tears, and said yes. We didn't do a big wedding, just courthouse vows. Elijah in a bow tie that he kept trying to eat. Megan was there, believe it or not. She even handed me a tissue during the ceremony. Afterward, she pulled me aside and said, You're a better man than I gave you credit for. He's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have them, I replied. She nodded. We all are. Life wasn't perfect after that. There were still bumps, still compromises, still late-night arguments about diapers and dishes, and who forgot to buy formula. But every day, we chose each other. And every night, when we tucked Elijah in, I looked around and realized this was the family I didn't even know I was capable of dreaming about. Years passed. Elijah grew up with two dads and a mom who loved him fiercely from separate homes. We told him the truth in pieces. As he got older, as questions came up, he took it all in with a kind of calm that only children seem to possess. And one day, when he was about 7 or 8, he looked at both of us and said, So, I have two dads and one mom. That just means I get extra hugs, right? I laughed. Jason hugged him and said, Exactly right. We never pretended our story was simple, but it was ours, built on chaos and confusion, sure, but also on choices. The choice to stay, to forgive, to build, to love. And Elijah, he grew up never once doubting that he was wanted, that he was chosen, that he was loved, every single day. If this story touched you, made you feel seen, or reminded you of how messy but beautiful love can be, then do one thing for us. Like this video, comment, Love always finds a way. If you stayed till the end, and don't forget to subscribe, because we're telling more raw, real, and emotional gay stories every week. Your comment might be featured in the next video. Your support helps these stories reach someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, stay brave, stay soft, and never apologize for who you love.